Nintendo.
I kind of can't believe I'm saying this, but the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct is finally happening next week. And yeah, there's so much hype for this, and now that everything is out in the open with the recent Switch 1 Direct, I'm ready to finally put out my predictions for what I think could be possibly the biggest Nintendo Direct of all time. I genuinely think that this has the potential to be like a PS2 level of hype, if the launch goes well. So we'll see. But I have some predictions today that I think could make this launch very exciting. So I won't talk about specs so much because all of these things have already been leaked. I think it's kind of a little bit boring to go over that again and again. So instead, I'm going to make some kind of educated guesses that are realistic, but I did take some liberties on the speculations, so I don't think they're boring predictions. I actually think that we've had a little bit of a Switch 1 game drought recently, and I think this is for good reason. I don't think it's unintentional. I think Nintendo are getting us ready for a new console and new games, and yeah, it's going to be quite an expensive few months if you are going to buy these things. So I think they're having a little break so that when the console finally launches, people have the money to afford these games. Also, side note, I was one of the lucky people to get a ticket to one of the hands-on events. I'm going to the one in Berlin, so there'll be a lot of content surrounding that when it comes out. I know it's not the first one is in America, but still I will be posting my content of the Switch 2 hands-on event, just in case you wanted to stick around for that. But for now, let's get on with the predictions, and I'm going to start by talking about the backwards compatibility. So I think that in terms of backwards compatibility, there's probably going to be some kind of tab on the eShop that separates Switch 1 and Switch 2 games. I think this is really important for Nintendo to have this separation, and I think they're going to somehow make it very clear in this Direct that Switch 1 is obviously the old console and Switch 2 is the new one, so there will be a lot of differences, particularly with the graphics and the performance of the games. So I think it's very important that Nintendo gets this distinction right. As we saw in the Nintendo Switch 1 Direct the other day, there was the announcement of digital game cards, and this feature will be compatible with the Switch 2. But I've heard that on the Nintendo website, there's also a mention of something called Switch 2 Edition games. And people are already speculating that this could mean that some Switch 1 games will get Switch 2 Edition upgrades, but I actually don't think this is what that means. I think this just means with cross-generation titles such as possibly Metroid Prime 4, which I'll be talking about later, these games will have a Switch 1 edition and a Switch 2 edition, so very firmly in different boxes or in a digital sense on the different eShops. Like I said before, I think Nintendo will really want to make this distinction between Switch 1 and Switch 2. So I think that there will be Switch 2 versions of certain games, but it will be only a select few, such as, say, Tears of the Kingdom. I don't think this will be with all first-party Nintendo Switch 1 games. I just think it will be with a few, and I think that this will be upgradable via the Nintendo Switch Online membership. So if you have a membership, I think maybe these games will be automatically upgradable for you. I just think this is the best business decision for Nintendo and the best way for them to go about it, because it also encourages people to get Nintendo Switch Online memberships. But yeah, I think Nintendo will definitely spend a lot of time in this Direct kind of treating us like babies, explaining what the difference is between Switch 1 and Switch 2, which I think is fairly important to like less educated consumers. So the next thing I want to talk about is the mouse mode, and this has been heavily rumored for a while that the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons will be able to be used as a computer mouse, and it's basically being confirmed now, so I think this is definitely going to be in the Direct. I also didn't really want to talk about this much because it's so obvious by now. But yeah, I think there'll be some kind of hardware introduction that heavily focuses on this feature. And yeah, we'll get to see it with a few different games in action too. So the next thing I want to talk about is the UI of the system. And I think it will actually be way more interesting this time around, since they don't have to be as safe with the idea of what the console is. Like, we already know what a Switch is. We already know that it's a dedicated games console and it's not trying to be something else. So I think they will go a bit crazier with the theming and the design. I think it will go for a little bit more of like a skeuomorphic design, because that seems to be where the tech industry is going these days with their UI designs. I also think and I hope they bring back some music, like, or just some kind of ambient music to go in the background. It doesn't have to be like overly intense like it used to be, but just something to make using the system a little bit more fun and atmospheric. And moving on from this, but in the same realm of discussion, I do think that Nintendo will heavily focus on social features this generation. I think this will almost be the gimmick of the console, if it can be called a gimmick. I think at the time when the Switch came out, they kind of wanted to separate it as much as possible from the Wii U. And the Wii U had Miiverse, it had a lot of social features. Same with the 3DS, and I think they were kind of worried to do something similar. But now I think they probably realized that these features were not the reason for the Wii U's failure. They were probably the most successful part about it. So I would hope that they come back to things like this now. And this is where I think we will see the Nintendo playtest again. Now, if you didn't know, Nintendo did a playtest sometime late last year. This was on the Switch One, but it was for some kind of MMO style game, very simple, very casual looking, a little bit like Minecraft kind of thing. Now, I have a lot to say about this, so I'm going to try and keep it fairly brief. Maybe in the future I will make a full video about this, because I think it's a really interesting idea if it does happen. But if it doesn't happen, then I guess I will never talk about it again. But I think this time around, the social features will be fully interactive, and you'll be in this kind of world like we saw in the playtest, where players can interact with each other, they can see what each other are playing. There's user-generated content that other players can take from each other. I think like every social aspect of every first-party Nintendo game will have some kind of linked feature to this interactive game. For example, if you get an achievement in a game, then you will unlock some kind of skin in this MMO. You'll also be able to meet other players and see what games they're playing. And if you have the same game, you can jump into a game together just like that. I think because there is a rumored microphone on the actual Switch 2 console, that people will be able to talk to each other. But I also think this microphone could be used for making some kind of content in-game as well. Like, for example, with a game like Game Builder Garage, you could use it to record sound effects for the game, and then your games in Game Builder Garage could be uploaded to this wider kind of sphere of social features that are fully interactive. And yeah, everything's in the same place basically, and you can interact with everyone and see what things they're doing in every aspect of the Nintendo social sphere. And I do think this will also be available on Switch 1, albeit with less features. But I think this is a good idea for Nintendo, because it would give people incentive to upgrade. And the elusive C button that we currently do not know what it does, I think this will be for the social features. I know this was also kind of rumored, but I think that is the best guess of what I think it is for. You just click it and you automatically access these social features. And I think you'll be able to do this whilst playing any game on the system. So the other mystery of the Nintendo Switch 2 is, why does it have this extra USB-C port? And I do think there is a reason for this, but I don't think it will really be touched on in this direct. I think at the most, there could be some kind of attachable accessory like a camera, but I also don't think Nintendo want to confuse people by adding new peripherals right now. There was a patent for a second screen that people keep talking about, and I think there is potential with this, but I just cannot for the life of me think how it would happen without being extremely weird. But I do think Nintendo care enough about the DS and the Wii U to make dual screen gaming a thing again. So I think there is a potential for this, but I just don't think it's happening in this direct, to be honest. Okay, now onto the good stuff, which is the big first party games that I think Nintendo will be announcing. And the first one, which I mean, it was already announced in the Switch One Direct, but I think they will definitely announce a Switch 2 edition of Metroid Prime 4. And I think this is why in the Switch One Direct they didn't really show so much. It was they were kind of holding back in some way. So I think this will be the big game to show off the difference between the Switch 1 and the Switch 2. I think there will be a bit more of a deep dive into the mechanics of this game, and I think it will be a launch title. And yeah, I think the difference between the two versions will be very big, and this will be a big incentive for people to upgrade. Now, out of all the games they talk about, I think they will spend the most time on Mario Kart 9. And I do think it will be called Mario Kart 9. I don't think it will be Mario Kart X or Mario Kart 10. Yeah, but I think this game will be a massive overhaul of the Mario Kart series. I think it will be convention breaking for the series. I still think there will be like a classic Mario Kart mode in the game, but I think there will probably be an emphasis on single player gameplay. So there will be some kind of hub world, I think, and I think this hub world will be America themed, just going by the first trailer, which seemed very like Route 66 style kind of thing. But yeah, I'm hoping there'll be like a whole story mode where you can unlock each track and then you can play those tracks in online mode later. Of course, I think we have to see a glimpse at the next 3D Mario. And when I say glimpse, I actually think they will spend a lot of time talking about this. Now, this is kind of a wildcard prediction, but I actually think that the next 3D Mario will be a crossover with Donkey Kong. I think we've seen a massive push from Nintendo for the Donkey Kong franchise, so either we will be getting a standalone Donkey Kong game, or this will be some kind of crossover. And my reasoning for this is that there was this codename for a new Mario Odyssey game that was called Silver Star. And I think usually Mario games are Red Star. And if Silver Star could mean anything else, it could be referring to like Silverback, Donkey Kong. And this could be a kind of Mario and Donkey Kong style Mario Odyssey game. I don't know, this is like a pie in the sky thing, but I think it's a cool idea. Of course, I think I would like it even more if they were two separate games, but I don't want to get my hopes up, so this is why I'm predicting it like this. I think this will be a holiday title as well, so it won't be launching with the console. Next, I feel like we'll definitely be hearing about the new Sakurai game, and this could be one of two things. It could either be a new Smash game or a new Kid Icarus game. I think I'm predicting that it's a new Kid Icarus game. I don't know why, I just have a feeling. Also, it's been heavily rumored for a while now. It will either be a new game or a Kid Icarus Uprising remake, but I think it would be wise of Nintendo to lean into more new games rather than remakes for the launch of their new console. I just think it's always a bad idea to just rehash old things again, especially when you're trying to make something seem new. The next couple of games I think are the least likely to be announced out of all of the ones I've mentioned, but I still think there's a chance, so I included them. The first one is a Zelda title, and I actually think we will see an announcement that a new game is in development for Switch 2, and possibly there will also be an Ocarina of Time remake, since this has also been heavily rumored for a while now, but we will have to see. I also think there will be a new Hyrule Warriors game, and this one will be the Imprisoning War. I think it's just a natural next step for that series, and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity sold pretty well, so I think Nintendo will keep these games up, especially during this era. And also, I know those games didn't run so well on the Switch 1, so I think it would be a good idea to showcase them running on the Switch 2 better than ever. The next title I think we will get a glimpse of, and this is kind of wishful thinking because it's one of my favorite game series of all time. That is Animal Crossing. And I don't think we will get a trailer for this game. I would hope we would, but I think it will literally just be a glimpse in one of these kind of sizzle reels just to get people hyped. And I think it will show a massive upgrade for the series, like potentially some kind of city living type situation. If we do end up getting a big trailer, I will be very happy, but I'm also okay with just seeing a little bit for now. The last games I'm going to talk about in this prediction video are third-party games, and I've kind of just chosen two games which I think would make a big splash if they were announced for the Switch 2, and that is obviously Elden Ring and also Baldur's Gate 3, which I think would be a very good way to show off the new mouse controls, because I hear this game plays a lot better on PC, like the controls are just better because you can use a mouse and keyboard, so what better game to bring to the Switch 2? Now I'm going to move on to the final details. So I'm going to talk about price, and I don't know why I think this console will launch for $449, so like $449. I'm not sure how it will be priced in different areas of the world, but I'm just going on dollars for this. I don't know why I think it will be more expensive than people are expecting. Most people are saying $400, but I think this console has pretty good specs, so I just think it will be a little bit more expensive than what people think, and I think a lot of people will be disappointed because of that. But I honestly think $449 is not that bad a price, but we'll see. And when I say it's not that bad a price, I'm just referring to the fact that we all buy smartphones and laptops and other technology that costs a lot more than this. And I think it's not too much to ask to pay just a little bit more than what people expect for a games console, especially if Nintendo want to make profit. I know like the economy is doing some weird shit at the moment, so yeah, that's just a guess I'm making. Obviously could be very wrong. I'm not an expert in this, but yeah. As for the release date, I'm going to predict it will be released in June. I think I'm just going by the same time frame of the Switch 1 from announcement to release. And finally, I want to talk about the different color swatches they will have on launch. I think there will just be two similar to the Switch 1 again, but this time I think it will just be black and white with the same color accents on the analog sticks. And that's actually everything I predicted. So please write in the comments what you think, if you think some of my ideas are silly or if you think some of them are good. And yeah, we only have a few days to wait until we actually know what is going on with the Switch 2. I feel like it's been so long in the waiting. So if you want to hear more about this, then please subscribe and follow me on all my socials. And yeah, I'll be back soon with another video on the Switch 2. Bye!